The Beef and Barnzy Show, brought to you by Bowlersmart.com, trusted by bowlers around the world since 2004. By Lightning Strikes Bowl, home of Bowlers Mart Pro Shop. By Platinum Ford, drive the difference. By Fire Lake Bowling Center, 24 state-of-the-art lanes. By True Grit Coatings, drive on our passion. By Road to Grip, king of them all. By 900 Global, striking worldwide.
Good morning and welcome back to the Beef and Barnzy Show, and we have a special one for you here today. As usual, I am Barnzy, joined by the inimitable Stuart Williams. How are you this morning?
I don't know. I had to change part of my air conditioning out yesterday, and then I made $200 in league, so it didn't really cover it.
Yeah, that doesn't quite balance out, but bringing the energy early, I like it. All right.
I got to tell Tina, pretend I just didn't bowl Scorpion, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go.
That's just how.
That's kind of how we're doing around my house too. We're just pretending I didn't bowl it, and and it's accurate. In any event, I don't think we should wait a whole lot longer. We have
just one real quick thing, because I've got to bring this in. So we've got super chats up again as normal, and for a funny story, we actually have a ball to give away today.
All right.
We were bowling state this weekend, and I won the ball in the ball raffle after I was like, I don't really want a ticket. And they're like, well, come on, you've got to have a ticket. Don't really want a ticket. It's going to be awkward. You have to have a ticket. Okay, here's $5. And of course, when they're announcing it, I'm like, I'm clearly winning. There is no doubt I'm winning. And of course I won. So I was like, well, you know what? Normally I would have just given it back to them to re-raffle, not to like pick another ticket, just to re-raffle. But I thought, well, I could use the free ball here. So instead of giving it to the people of Dallas area or Texas area, we're giving it to the people who follow the Beef and Barnzy Show. So one rule. I know it sucks, but you got to be in the USA. I like you, but I'm not paying the international shipping. So there we go. So if you give us a super chat, I will announce it at the end of the show. We won't do it afterwards. We'll do it at the end of the show. All of the people who super chat, we will find a way to assign you a number and we'll do a draw. So there we go. All right. Now you can go ahead. It's a premium feature on YouTube, Danny. So you're also in England, so you don't qualify. Sorry. All right. Now you can get back to the reason we're all here. But
the reason we all are here, and David Tolson has stole the show, but this guy's put on quite a run. He has been hanging around and knock on the door and been in that top three year in, year out now for quite some time. This year, I guess, I don't know, I would call it a breakthrough year when he had 16 titles coming into it, but he now has 21, and I'm going to say he's also tied with me still. It's my story, and I can do what I want here. The latest champion and the winner of the World Series of Bowling, the World Championship, E.J. Tackett from Bluffton. That's right, Bluffton, Indiana.
Yes, sir. How you guys doing? And technically, I'm sitting in the bowling center right now as well. So I'm just waiting for Brett to get here. We got a ball test today. So
all right.
No days off, never stops.
This is your father's center, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I did take yesterday off though. We had league championships last night. My team was in the roll off, and I said, "Good luck, boys. I'm just going to sit back here and drink a bucket of beer and watch y'all."
So, real quickly though, you managed to win. Everybody was there. You only seem to use the Venom Shock, but you're still doing ball tests. So,
well, yeah.
I only need one ball, but
well,
other people need more. Let me help you.
I'm testing all the balls to get me to the show. Once we get to the show, then it's all reliable.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I really think that you literally might be the worst person I could possibly think of to do a ball test with. You're just like, yeah, these are fine. It's like Simo. It's like just totally pointless him doing it. No, like, yeah.
Walter was actually the worst one I ever saw.
Yeah, that's true.
He would stand on the same dot with all of them and just make them hook the same amount. Like he just, oh, this one hooks way earlier. All right, well, I'll just loft it, roll it, and kind of miss it at the bottom. And oh yeah, it's the same as the other one.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I don't know. I would say it's worked out. I've worked out pretty well so far. Brett and I have been doing ball tests together for about 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
About 5 years, I think, since he moved back to Indiana. So I'd say the equipment keeps getting better and better. So I don't know. Maybe I know what I'm doing. I'm still unsure.
Nico, I have any ball you want. I got an absolute out of it, but any ball you want that's Storm or Rote or whatever. Thanks, Brian. Ask a question. One of our favorites here says there will be questions on game for EJ, but my question is a bit more personal. How did you meet your spouse, and how does your game, and how does she add to your game as a pillar and a fellow bowler? So.
Well, we actually met. Really, the first time was in 2013 when we both made Junior Team USA.
Oh, that's right.
Because she bowled at Vanderbilt in college. I didn't bowl in college, but then it was a couple of years went by where we might have like seen in passing, but not really talked or hung out. 2016 at the Lucy was really the next time we really started hanging out and started talking to each other. And then about 3 months after that, we started dating, and here we are, 6 years later. And as far as bowling goes, for me, she's on the opposite side of the lane, so there's not a lot of insight she can really give me on being a right-hander. But she is a huge and pivotal part in a support system for me of trying to keep me from, throwing my glasses like some people on this podcast.
Don't worry. Chris has the same thing. He just needs his support system to be a little closer to him at the time when the glasses toss is coming.
But no, she's awesome, and she does everything that she can to make my life a little bit easier. I know when show days happen, when I have family that can come in and stuff, Danielle that works for the PBA takes care of all the seating and stuff. Natalie and Danielle become pretty good friends over the years. So Danielle doesn't talk to me, and Natalie takes care of it, of all the people that are coming. In Indianapolis this year, I think there was about 15 or 20 people that came to the show, and I didn't have to do any of it. Natalie took care of every bit of it. So she does a lot to take as much off my plate as possible and let me go out and be the best that I can be.
So Dick is asking for some help here. He says, in the ball test, just pick the one that hooks too much. Some of us need the help.
Okay, Nick Parr.
Brian says, bowled against EJ in high school, keep killing it. Super chat test, it came through. TD says, hi, Beef and Barnzy and EJ. Who was better at 26? Who cares? It's EJ on today. But you did write super chat, so who's better, Simo or PDW? Well, I'm going with Simo because he's better than everybody at 25. So,
yeah, I think it's a much
hard to argue
thing,
that.
But it's also a different era.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you can really compare. Those two at a young age were as good as anyone, more impressively, maybe at 18, 19, 20, and what they could do. But
can I bring up my favorite Pete Weber story just before we go on? Didn't do anything bad, but it's the most Pete Weber thing ever. His dad wouldn't let him bowl adults until he was good enough, and his first sanction game was 300.
And we're talking about golly, that was long enough ago. It might have been with, I'm not even sure it was with a urethane ball. It probably was with the plastic ball.
Hey, Adam, what's going on? We're looking forward to seeing you this weekend. Doug says, congrats, EJ. What kind of beer did you have? Also, did you ever consider to move into urethane on the show?
I had Bud Light, which is my beer of choice.
Miracle.
And yeah. And no, I never considered moving urethane on the show. The 8 minutes of practice we get before the show starts, I only threw urethane during that time because I wanted to drag the pattern out as much as possible. And then the guys threw urethane on top of that, which is kind of what I wanted to happen. And then once I got to my time, I think it was just all about execution at that point, and I had a pretty good idea what my ball was going to do.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I watched Joe Ball wiggle the first couple of times on the left lane, and I watched Belmo throwing it about 10 feet down the lane with the urethane. I was like, 225 is going to be a pretty high score on this match. And then the fact that you two are just both insane meant that it was 250 to 240. I think you could have taken anybody but you three, and put the rest of us on the show. I'm not sure we're getting to 250 even with 10 minutes of practice. It was really high level match. Jason, another one of our regulars, says, with Santu being on motive with you, did you give him any advice before the shows?
I mean, Santu, I, and Brett, we all talked about the way we thought the show would go. We thought that Belmo and Simon would both throw urethane. And then you had Jacob on the other side of the lane, which is, irrelevant to what we're, thinking about. But, it was just like, go out and do your thing. Santu is so different in how he attacks the lanes than anyone else. His ball hooks a tremendous amount. And so I don't know if there's much advice I could really give him. He seems like he's pretty calm already.
Mm-hmm.
He seems mentally present when he's bowling on TV. So, someone like that, I don't want to put too many thoughts in their head to get him to overthink. But he went out and did his thing. He bowled a good game, and sometimes you just get beat, and that's the way it goes.
Yeah, he had a little bit of trouble early on, like controlling it.
Yeah,
he made a trip to Jacob's side a few times, but it's one of those things where it's like it's so difficult because I just feel like you guys have got the balls that are a lot smoother than the other guys on the show. So if you can get lined up with the reactive in that first match, it's like, okay, now I've got a really good chance of really running the ladder. I feel like Belmo is almost the only one who can use the urethane for 4 games in that point. Like, it's really difficult for everybody else. So I didn't really think, considering how angular the ball was for Santu, I thought he bowled a pretty good game.
Mm-hmm.
But if he could have just caught, a few breaks, he could have got through that first match, and then it could have been a very different breakdown on the lanes. And
to go to that, I really think that not that I wanted Santu to lose early, but I think him losing out the first match actually benefited me a lot because what Simo and Belmo was doing, playing straighter with the urethane, I think benefited me way more than what Santu was doing and hooking the whole lane. So it turns out to be a blessing in disguise. Obviously, I wanted Santu to win because he's a motive teammate, but in the end, I think it did benefit me.
Yeah.
The snowball 5 lefter isn't really the greatest strategy.
No, not
especially
really.
with the left-hander at the time. I mean, I guess at that point he would have eliminated Jacob, but it does make it for a messy show from then on.
Yeah.
Let's just Clint Harris says congratulations. Thanks again for the super chat, Clint. Bowling Moose, congrats on your success. Been a fan for a while. I'm very happy to see you having a great year. Teresa says congratulations. Just before we get to Shimrek's question, there's a narrative out there that you're winning the titles, but Simo's the one bowling well every week is kind of the way it's been because he's got this totally absurd stat that he's been in the top 10 14 times out of 14, which is ridiculous. But I just wanted to put into perspective because me and Chris were talking about the other day. You've been in the top 3 8 times, which I'll be honest is a joke. But just for the people who are at home who haven't really necessarily been paying attention properly every week, you led the US Open by 120. I'm going to come back to Shawnee because that's the most ridiculous tournament ever. You were the second seed in Jackson. You led the TOC by 130. You were the second seed in Kokomo. You led the World Series. You were second on Cheater and you're second on Scorpion. So that means 8 times you've been the second seed or higher. In Shawnee, you led by 545 in 28 games. I almost feel like that's enough to be player of the year just by itself, the Shawnee performance.
I can't remember anyone beating the field by, it's like 18 pins a game.
Let me just, Chris, any right-hander.
Yes, that was where my point was going, obviously.
Yeah.
It is that I've never seen a right-hander be able to separate from the field like that.
And the crazy part about that tournament was, with 9 games to bowl, I was not first.
All right. I feel like I'm being victimized here.
Well, you weren't first either. It was Joe Grondin. Joe was leading with 9 to bowl.
Yeah.
He did, because he bowled like 800 the first 3.
All I know is everybody was like, oh, I don't understand how EJ's averaging 240 after qualifying. I was like, yeah, I do. I'm beating him. And then we turned up and both of us were like, what are we bowling on? Because it wasn't even remotely close to what we qualified on. And I proceeded to wonder what we were bowling on for about the next 9 games. And you just went, it's not that different. Okay, I'll just go back to averaging 240, which nobody else did. But like for 2 days, I could understand what you were doing. And then for the 3rd day, I was like, okay, I have no idea how he's doing that. But anyway.
I don't either.
Let's get back to, we got a question right here. Oh, thank you, V. Blaine. Albuquerque. Shimrek Enterprises. There you go. Says, incredible title match on Sunday and congrats to EJ on the win. From what I've seen, looks like you've been able to simplify your lane play quite a bit. What clicked changed for you?
I don't really. I think the best thing that happened to me was, we have to rewind a year ago to the double show that Marshall and I won. I think that was a huge mental boost, mental confidence for me, just because I bowled so well on that show and we ran the whole ladder. So it was like I bowled that well for not 1, but 4 games in a row. Obviously, I'm only bowling half the game, but
yeah, but still.
In the title match of that one, Tom Clark actually sent me the strike track after we were done, and every shot that I threw in the title match was dead on top of each other. Like you could have drawn it with a pencil, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can make really good shots for an entire game or an entire show. Not that I thought I couldn't, but it's just nice to see it laid out in front of you that like I actually did do this. And going forward, it gave myself a lot of confidence. And then this year, really, I think if I don't strike in the 10th at the U.S. Open, I think this whole season is completely different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you and Chris have a lot of similarities in the narrative is born that you didn't do very well because you had a few bad games on TV.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I always think it's the worst. It's like, if you're shooting 215 and you need a double in the 10th, the odds of you getting it are exponentially lower than when you're shooting 260 and you need a double in the 10th. Yeah. And like, and also like you get up on the lane and like in the 8th frame, you thought you threw a good shot, but the whole world thinks you didn't, and you're 210. So then you get up in the 10th and you're like, well, but the previous show, you'd struck in the 8th frame, you get up in the 10th, you know exactly what you're doing. So it's kind of like everything is, to quote Pat McAfee, situations are situational.
Yes, they are.
It's like, you know, if every time you have the chance to win, the scoring pace is 204, well, yeah, you're probably not as clutch. in the world. As if every time you have a chance to win, you're bowling on cheater and the scores are like 260 apiece.
Yeah.
Like, so it's amazing how much that, like, just rolls downhill, that everybody's like, oh man, he's not clutch. He never strikes when he needs it. Dude, I led 15 majors. Like, I'm pretty good. And it's just, it's so, like, it's so strange the way those things go. So, I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, doing it 3 different times, twice on TV now, where you've had to double in the 10th. I know the scores were higher this time, but I think I would argue that was not one of the easier pattern. We talked about it right afterwards, like, wow, was that a high? There's times when you guys are bowling great, but it doesn't always translate on TV. Like, whew, that was a high level match where literally you guys were the two. You bowled 2 of the best games of the week on TV, and it just doesn't always play out that way. I don't know if it translates on TV to the average viewer, but we watched how tricky they could be and how good you had to be in that situation with your heart rate, 40 higher, and you have to keep it all under control and throw 2 great ones, and you did. And you did it at the U.S. Open. You did it in Shawnee. Every time you had the opportunity this year, I believe, you've come through with aces. And the narrative doesn't always fit the reality. But, and I don't know. Fortunately for you, I don't think I've heard it nearly as much as I heard it for me. But Dave Ryan also doesn't do all your shows, so he can't tell everybody every moment that the show has a moment to breathe. But yeah, I mean, I think you've certainly given them plenty of ammunition to if that's a narrative, and I don't think it should be, but that you've turned that around.
Yeah, at least this year I have. I feel like I've bowled well. Obviously, we can't. People, I think, sometimes forget you can't be perfect all the time. And Jason was nearly perfect on Sunday. He threw 1 bad shot.
Yeah.
And I said that in my interview when I was done, that sometimes 1 minor mistake is all it takes. It doesn't matter who you're bowling out here. Everyone is so good that 1 small mistake can cost you a major championship.
Yeah. You bowled shows where you make 4 mistakes and can still win and go, yikes, that just wasn't a very good game, but I broke up all the splits. I even got lucky on one of them and it struck, and then I parlayed it. And then the other one, you go, my last real chance at a title, I bowled Troop. I shoot 268 on a dual pattern where 1 lane doesn't hook. And the other one, I'm throwing urethane. I'm like, I should have been doing a victory lap with two frames to go.
Right.
And I got slapped around. I mean, you just kind of, it's just another choke job by me. I didn't win. So,
yeah.
Hey Keith, that sucks about your skyrocket. I'm sorry. We always hate it.
It lasted a minute though.
What's a good replacement? Well, in that sort of range, right now the Revenant is probably going to be the best replacement for it. It's going to be stronger, but that's going to be the kind of high RG type of ball that you're looking for. And ball recommendations for the Johnson: 1-handed left and decent revs. Any form of urethane would be a very good starting point on the Johnson pattern. Right or left side. Keeping the ball in front of you on the Johnson pattern is usually a recipe for success in most places, especially if they're using the Kegel machine. That is one of the slicker patterns that we bowl on, especially when it's oiled with the Kegel machine. So,
so also a weaker drilled, bigger ball can also work like that, a jam reality kind of thing. If you're a little urethane adverse. So,
but thanks for the super chat. Thanks for playing along. We saw this one earlier. Packy would say it's not a purple hammer. The next one, one of our friends from Detroit. Just a shout out to 2 guys I admire, and in memory of my friend who tossed one down the lane, Tom Strobel. Yes, it's been a bad year for PBA longtime supporters. Tom Strobel passed away. I guess it was kind of fitting that it was after the Masters. He hosted another major championship, but it's kind of surprising as well because they said I think he had a heart attack, and like I say, Tom was a guy who was down at the DAC every day by the sounds of it, and he seemed in pretty good form when we saw him just a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, thoughts and prayers with his family for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a tough week.
Dennis Monroe says, my Sport League playoffs are on a mystery ban. Oh my God. I'm sorry, Dennis. That sounds like a fucking nightmare. Mystery. Oh God, I hope there's no employees bowling in the league of the bowling center. Chris,
I've been to a few centers where that's league every week. So
this is 100% your area of expertise. This is your trick shot. What would you tell them?
You want to let EJ take a swing, or you want me?
No, Barnes is all over this. He has his whole strategies for practice.
That's kind of what I do, I guess. So those who can do, those who can't talk about it. So, basically, I'm taking an earliest rolling ball I can. I'm throwing it right of first arrow. I'm going to find out if the gutter hooks or it doesn't hook. And doing that with the earliest rolling ball, then you know right off the bat where that is. Because on the right side, the lane basically hooks in two places. It hooks on the gutter if the lane man lets it. And if it doesn't hook there, then you move to the track. And you move into somewhere around 8 through 13, 14. And that's probably going to be your hook spot if the gutter doesn't hook. And then you just keep bowling down until one of them gets down the lane and through the pins. But the general strategy is using the earliest rolling ball that'll go through the pins. And then after that, going to balls that get a little more responsive to see how much they hook. And that'll tell you how much oil's in the front of the lane and give you the best chance to strike. Or if you're EJ, you just throw a Venom Shock and then, and make it hook however what you want. If you have unlimited power, you do have a few more options than some of the rest of us. So.
One thing I would try is if I bowl in that house on the house shot, I would try my house shot ball and line, just in case the mystery is they put the house out, because you can make an asshole of yourself real quick if you think that a house shot is a sports shot, because they don't always play by the right rules. So when you miss left, your ball misses right. And when you miss right, your ball misses left. You can convince yourself it's a long pattern or a short pattern at that point. So
yeah, that's true.
Sometimes, you just got to rule some of those things out. I just checked that they didn't put the house shot out just for shits and funnies. So here's a pretty cool question. Was this your most emotional title? And why has every motive ball I've thrown 9-pin? It could be worse. It could be saying it flat 10. So
yeah, it's funny about that. I've heard so many times from people over the years about motive balls deflect too much and they don't get through the pins. And then I had to have been close last year. I know I'm completely a different animal, but I had to have been close last year leading the tour in 9 pins. Yeah, they deflect a lot, let me tell you. But as far as emotional title, I would have to say that the U.S. Open this year is definitely the most emotional one for a lot of reasons. I've always wanted to win in the state of Indiana just because it's home. Woodland Bowl's always been very special because of all the history there. The U.S. Open to complete the Triple Crown. I had all my family there, my mom, my dad, my wife, a bunch of friends from home. There was so many things that happened by winning that tournament that it became the most emotional one. Before that, it was the World Championships was my first major when my dad was there. But I think this U.S. Open even topped that one.
Yeah, I would think that would make a lot of sense. That's an answer. Chris Skillen says, hey guys, Big Brother's Big Sister Pro-Am fundraiser for this weekend has been postponed due to the recent storms in Shawnee. Yes, this was This was, I don't know if you've seen it, EJ, but like basically the Kickapoo Street where all the restaurants are and stuff, like got annihilated by hurricanes and tornadoes, hurricanes, tornadoes. So yeah, thankfully the bowling center was all right, but it was pretty much the only part of Shawnee that didn't get affected.
Wow. Yeah, I think I heard about that. I hadn't looked into it, but
so
I'm glad Chris is messaging us and he's okay.
Yeah.
I just checked in with him again too. The tournament, he's still going to hold the tournament. I actually don't know how the hotel situation is there, and all that as well. But they're just going to postpone and that's a pretty cool fundraiser. So I'm sure as everything else kind of gets on its feet, that's going to have to take a back seat for now as they try and get the city back together.
Just as a quick tie-in for the Big Brothers Big Sisters, the new Rotogrip ball, the Duo that comes out in May, has a tie-in with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and every domestic purchase, a percentage goes to Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So that's a cool thing that the Crispins are doing again. Mark, are you going to buy something nice for yourself with all this money you've won?
Well, yeah, I'm going to make sure the IRS doesn't audit me is what I'm going to buy myself.
It's next year that they audit you.
I know, but I'm just gonna hang on to that money.
An early present.
Yeah,
and pay taxes.
Some of the banks are actually paying good interest rates, that the highest I've ever seen in my lifetime. I know you're much older than me, Barnes. You've probably seen better, but it's the first time there's actually been a reason to keep some cash around because of the interest it's earning and the volatile world we're living in. I don't mind having it. So
yeah, I guess
earn a little bit of interest before I have to pay that huge tax bill next year.
I was about to say the only nightmare about it is inflation is higher than interest rate, so that's a bit of a bitch.
Always,
yeah. So,
Chuck Ritchie, who does a lot of commentary on Bowl TV, says the best line about EJ this year was at Springfield when you struggled the first day. He said someone said he struggled because he had $100K in one pocket and it messed up his balance.
So, I mean, it could have been true.
So is that the secret? You put 50 in the other pocket and then you went nuts the next day? Is that what it was? You obviously heard me, EJ.
Yeah.
I think that the problem he had in Springfield was he couldn't keep the ball on the bastard lane.
I think
right
I
had
a harder time keeping it on the lane on Cheetah than I did in Springfield.
I had my nice frame of the season. Got up in the 8th frame, could shoot 260. Got up in the 9th frame, could shoot 204.
Whoa.
Let's go. Wasn't scared of it.
Nice.
The thing was, and I still missed that far right. While going, don't throw it to the right. I did it again.
Yeah, they showed up the stat on Cheetah. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but I had 8 gutter balls in the 20 games.
It felt like AJ was trying to run you down in that first game, though.
He got close because he had 4 going into that game.
Have you ever seen anything like that match? Sorry, Chris.
Go ahead.
I said, have you ever seen anything like that match?
Oh, that was unbelievable. I've never seen. Halfway through the game, I'm like, there is no way AJ is going to even have any opportunity to win this. And Butters goes down and then fouls again in the 10th frame.
And that actually helped him.
Oh my god! It did.
Yeah, turns out not by a lot, but a couple pins.
Well,
yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm not besmirching his spare shooting, but he wouldn't be the person I'd be queuing up to shoot the 2-6 for me to stay alive.
No,
and also in the 10th when AJ got up and he needed a strike and then needed 7, I think, or 8. And he hooked at it. I'm like, I told him, I said, there is no chance I would hook at that. After throwing in the gutter 3 times, no way. I'm throwing that thing down the middle.
And he almost double-crossed himself. It was almost golf because he almost missed so far inside that he's super washout.
Yeah.
And I was I
actually did that in Shawnee when I bowled Dom. I needed a strike and then I needed 7. And on that pair, because we were on, I think, 5 and 6, and that pair was just It's just so wonky.
Yeah.
I told Brett, I was like, I've thrown it in the gutter this week. I feel like I can get 5 both ways. I'm throwing it down the middle.
Yeah. The chance of me throwing it 23 miles an hour and getting 6 are very, very remote.
Yeah. When I'm actually trying, I mean, I did it on the show on Sunday, but it didn't matter at that point. But when I'm actually trying to hit the one in front and trying to get 9, I'm pretty good at doing it. Actually, on Cheetah, when we bowl on those patterns, if I double in the 10, unless I can bowl 300, I throw it down the middle 100% of the time, and I strike about 40 or 50% of the time.
Yeah.
So I'll take my chances.
I think it's great. Nathan did it to himself. He ground out one game, and we were bowling on it was on Scorpion because I was bowling with him. And he went strike, and he walked to the back, and he got another ball out. She gone.
Yeah, it's the worst thing you can do like that is basically what he did. Is like, don't throw it in the gutter on that short pattern. So he moved his eyes. It looked like he just moved his eyes left and threw it hard. It could have gone anywhere at that point. Yikes.
So one of our biggest supporters, Adam, says, "Hey EJ, how are you doing since your 2 wins at the World Series of Bowling?" I'd say pretty well.
I'm doing pretty good. It was funny when Phil brought up the stat to me about if I won the World Championships that I made more money that week than I did in 6 of my 10 previous seasons on tour.
That's pretty good.
I'm like, that's a decent 2 weeks of work, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the only one thing went wrong for you at the World Series. There was only one thing. It wasn't losing Scorpion. It was the beat down my world boys put on the Team USA.
Yeah, that was incredible. They bowled. They did exactly what they had to do. I got asked, like, what went wrong? I said, well, we just didn't finish any games. I think almost in the singles match, I think I might have been the only one that didn't have a chance in the 10th frame to win. And
I mean,
none of us threw good shots to even have an opportunity to win the matches. And the world team did exactly what they were supposed to do. And then the doubles match the next day with Simon and I, Belmo kind of screwed off a little bit. Simon and I went back-to-back shots, stone 9, ring 10, and got up in the 10th and did exactly what it's supposed to do. It was like, it wasn't like we bowled horrendous. It's just we just didn't bowl good enough. But the boys did great.
I do think the whole thing, though, I understand why they did it, but if you guys would have won the second team game, that would have been the second stupidest version of that. Make everything for TV. Yeah. Tom, that was silly. Like, I love you, bro, but that was silly. The fact that you guys could have lost 4 singles matches and a total bonus point, a doubles match, and 1 team game and won the whole thing would have been stupid. Like, there's no getting around that. It's like when Jesper got knocked out of the playoffs by Cooley, he didn't lose a game.
Right.
He goes, win, tie. Well, you don't have a roll-off. It's a win and a tie. You've won. Like, It's quite simple. No, we're going to have a roll-off for this one to then go to a roll-off. Okay. All right, cool. Didn't lose, but I'm out.
Richie, situations are situational. I'm way more clutch on TV than in qualifying.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. It's just if you're not good enough in qualifying, it gets hard to get to that second part. But
So Alan told me that I'm supposed to say that his mom slapped you around a little bit last night at dinner.
He fed her a couple of lines. She has more class than he does, but
well, that's not difficult.
Fair. So
last night, Alan wanted me to bring this up. Apparently at dinner, Alan's mom asked Chris after watching Bowl League, are you in the Hall of Fame? And Chris goes, yes, me and my wife Linda are in the Hall of Fame. And she goes, oh, that's cool. I would have thought you'd be better. That was Alan's version of it.
Yeah, we shot 3,600 as a team. I put about 680 on them. Bowling in contacts for the first time in about I don't know, 15 years or so. It's interesting.
Doggonaut says you got one more question. Does what your opponent do affect you mentally, or do you just ignore it? Seeing Belmo get a couple of breaks to strike out, I imagine people could get a little triggered by it.
Well, in my opinion, the people that are great and practice a lot and work very hard, they put themselves in a position to sometimes they get a good break. And I think that comes with the territory. So sitting there, you have to expect him to throw a good shot. He threw a good enough shot and got a good break. And then the second shot in the 10th was laced, which was probably the most important one. The last shot in the 10th, he got very lucky on, and that's just, it is what it is to make me have to double instead of strike 9 spare.
Right.
But almost in that situation, I think you guys could probably attest to it as well. I think it's almost better to have to double than it is to go strike 9 spare, because when you only have to get 9 to win, I feel like sometimes you guard against getting 7 rather than just fully committing to getting a strike. So I think mentally, sometimes it's actually better to have to throw 2 than it is.
Yeah, I agree. When
9.
you go, okay, 9, and then you have that flittering thought of not getting 7 or 8, which is never a thought. If you have to strike, you just have to strike.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't flat 10 as much as me and Chris. If every time the messenger sort of strolled across, it missed.
No comment.
So real funny, right? So we were the lane talk stat guys were like going on. Oh my god, EJ's made 300 single pins out of 307 10 pins or whatever it was. I think it was 10 pins. He's 300 out of 307. And a few people were walking past going, wow. And me and Dom are like, so? Right. Because Dom's an absolute psychopath on the 10 pin. Like, he's like Duke. Only on the 10 pin, but on the 10 pin, he's like insane. Like, I think he made 230 in a row or something last season. Like, it's crazy. Wow. So anyway, we're going, well, that's good, but it's not like mind blowing. And then Dom goes, he's bowled loads of games, and points at me, and they're like, oh no, it's not better than EJ. And they pulled it up, and it's the funniest thing ever. You were 300 out of 307, and I was 301 out of 308. So it's exactly the same. And Dom's like, are you still bringing that stat up? So it was just perfect because they were saying like they couldn't track how many you'd actually missed, because obviously you might throw it, because if you go strike 9 and then you throw a strike shot, right, it counts as a 9 miss, and like that fries Dom, because they told him it didn't happen, but it only doesn't happen for like the clean frames or whatever it was.
Right. So
Dom's like, you need to change this. I didn't miss the 10 pin. You need to get calling Magnus up when Magnus is sweet. You need to change this. So funny. So yeah. But anyway, like, cool. You're sparing like a maniac as well. So that was just another thing you were good at. So cool. Congrats on your win, Jack and Tom, another contributors quite often. You win with one hand with power like Roth back in the day. I always find that quite funny as well, because it wasn't like Roth. Like Roth's rev rate was like 9 or lower, so it's kind of like, I guess in comparison, but
for the era, he was the first kind of power player, and then I bowled him in that shoot for the stars thing and got to be on the same lane. And I went, oh. You're like 375 and you spin it. Like, fuck. When the lane's hooked like Holler House did, and glue in the front half of the lane, you're like, oh yeah, that loft spin thing, let it hook down lane instead of just hooking down. But yeah,
he said many of us lower pros struggle to adjust quickly. Surprised Bralmo struck with urethane. I don't really know what question you're asking.
Basically, surprised. Are you surprised that Belmo stayed with urethane?
Yeah,
I'm assuming against Simo that his ball kind of got a little away from him at the end.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm not surprised. Just by bowling on the pair. I mean, the pair was squirrely. I felt like the wall that the urethane had created for me, because I was playing just left of it and kind of throwing it into it on that particular pattern. And it even happened during the match play too, because a lot of guys threw urethane there as well. It was so easy to get the ball on the other side of it, and that's why all my misses on the show were left. Because if it got on the other side of it, it missed the head pin. It wouldn't even touch it. So I made sure that my miss was in an area that I knew it would still have a chance to hit the head pin. But Bemmel threw a couple of shots with the reactive ball at the end of the Simo match, and I guess he just felt that maybe it was a little too squirrely in there, and he just wanted to do what he was doing, because he had mentioned during practice that he would take double nine spare, double nine spare, double nine spare, and take his chances in bowl 230, which great strategy. And I would say majority of the time on TV, no matter what pattern you're bowling on or who you're bowling, there's a good chance that could work out. So I guess he felt comfortable enough, and then he made really good shots on top of that and bowled an even better game. So, but they were very squirrely, and you had to be. I think the most precise thing you had to be, honestly, wasn't really where your ball was, but it was how you got the ball out of your hand. And it was very speed sensitive because of all that urethane that went down the lane.
Yeah, for sure.
If your ball didn't pick up in the mid lane the right way, it was going past the head pin. So
on top of it, and I'm certainly not going to second guess your strategy because it's been money, but throwing a lower flare ball like the Venom Shock does makes it a little trickier to get that mid lane, control it quite as easily.
Yeah, and the only reason I threw that ball over, say, like a Primal Shock, because they both had the same exact cover on them,
right?
Is the RG is much lower in the Venom Shock, so the RG helps it pick up that mid lane.
True.
Without having all the extra flare.
True. We have quite a few super chats to catch up on here. EJ, if you have any extra motive balls handy, I'm right here in Fort Wayne. I'll swing by and pick them up. He says, congrats.
Thanks, Shane.
EJ, do you think your brother has the exact same release and throw roll as you? Obviously, he has the exact same success. So, will he be enjoying some similar success soon?
I certainly hope so. I mean, he bowled really well in Shawnee, just barely missing the show there. I was so proud of him for how he bowled in that event. He had an opportunity, and it was the first time ever being in that position. And he struggled a little bit, but I hope he learned something from it, so that way the next time he's in that position, which I believe he will be, because he strikes just as much as anybody. It's just
he throws some strikes, and he has gotten better year over year. It's not a very easy tour to get better on now.
No,
we don't have,
and especially for him having to go through PTQs as well, makes it that much more difficult. But no, we do not have the same release and roll. My brother's bowling ball sticks to the lane like no other bowling ball I've ever seen in my life. We bowl league together on Wednesday nights, and we'll be throwing the same balls, and he is literally an arrow left of me. The same exact ball drilled exactly the same
Your
way.
ball goes this way, and his goes.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah,
how much his ball sticks to the lane.
Yeah, a little steeper, gets it in there a little quicker, and yep.
He also he also has a few things like when everything's going well, it always goes well, and when everything's like just a little bad, man, he gets some bad breaks. Like, could that thing on Scorpion have happened to anybody but him with the lane breaking down on the front seven?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, he's trying to make a run, get a check, and then
it's game 2, right? And the lanes are absolutely stonewalled on that pattern for the first 3 games, and the last 2 games, it's like complete luck of the draw which pair you get, as to whether you can struggle to shoot 200 or they're fine. And then John Webber goes, if they can't fix it, you're going to have to finish this game at the end. What do you mean I'm going to have to come back and finish the game at the end? Like, I literally can't miss. Put the pins up my hand. Oh, man, I would have been, like, naked if that was me. Like, are you insane? like finish the game at the end.
Yeah.
Front seven.
EJ, aside from TV moments, what about this season has been your favorite memory or takeaway?
Um,
All of
I
it's
would-
been on TV this year.
Do
so
you have any memories that don't involve you bowling the stepladder?
yeah, actually I do. I would say one of them involves me not cashing, and one of them involves me does. The run I made at Wichita, I came up just 20 short. That was just, it was crazy. I came in that day, my finger had split open. I had to put some tape on it. I couldn't get my finger to, about halfway in the ball. And my rev rate went down. I'm like, oh, well, my ball's actually doing the right thing now instead of locking up and bailing out. Maybe I need to figure out how to do this on these long patterns. And then I just went nuts that day and just barely missed. And Dom came up to me and was like, "Oh, fucking hell, mate! What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and then the same type of thing happened on Shark. The last 10 games, I started that block. I think, those 10 games, I think I was like minus 30 going in, and I got to the last game 9. I was like 30 off the show. It was mad. Phil had interviewed me that morning before we even started, and was like, what are your goals for today? I'm like, well, I've kind of struggled on these long patterns over my career. We haven't gotten along very good. So, I just come out today, drilled a couple balls, try to see if I can get, 100, 200 over today in these 10 games, put myself back in good position for the World Championships and, go about the day. So if I bowl really well, I can probably get a check, but the show seems kind of far-fetched because I'm like a bajillion out at this point. And then I bowled 190 the first game and went off the last 4 and bowled like 180 over for the block. And then I started the next block, 270, 260. And then I was like 30 out of the show after that. I'm like, how'd I even get here? Like
it did look like they'd put in the wrong score for you at some point, either too low or too high, because like you were 35 under or whatever it was. And about 5 games later, it said you were 230 over. And I was just like, what?
Yeah. They must have put in, 135 somewhere instead of 235. He's always been out there.
Yeah. Like that's how it was. It just didn't make. And I knew they hadn't because I'd seen your scoreboard, but when like your lane. But yeah, it was very odd. Hey Tim, yeah, I've got to think of a new plan this year because I used to always bowl next week, but I can't bowl next week because we're going the players. So I'll get back to you on that.
I'm bowling June 2nd and 3rd myself, so somewhat coming up, but it's not right away. Yes, this was a surprise. I hadn't heard anything. You guys hadn't bowled with him on tour, but I was out there when he was his rookie year. He was the rookie year at 41 years old, and exciting to watch. High energy, jumping around. He was kind of what we're really, in my mind, kind of what we're supposed to be. He celebrated the good things, and he was quiet about the bad things, which is normally the opposite of what we do. And well, speaking for myself, I guess maybe, but yeah, it was sad. I hadn't heard that he was having any issues. So
yeah, and I'd only met him a couple of times. There was a couple of events that he randomly showed up at PBA events. Saw him at some regionals. Always was very nice.
Yeah.
In the few minutes that I talked to him, but yeah, it's been a rough year for bowling.
He wasn't afraid to bowl an action match against anyone either.
Just a shout out to the van. We got to give a shout out to the van.
Yeah, Emerson.
Yeah, and then what did it say on the side? You can make money or excuses, but you can't make both.
He had a wrap on a van back then. It was awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. If you've got a question, I probably won't find it because, well, I'm struggling to see them, but appreciate it. Best piece of advice for someone getting back into the sport after 7 years. I'll give the political answer. Just have a good time. find some people you like to bowl with. That's the main thing for me with bowling. Like, if you go back and you want to bowl league, just find some guys who you can like enjoy it. Because 2 hours or whatever you're going to bowl league, if you bowl with like a bunch of guys who are just a drag, it's just not that much fun. So
this is we have a bunch of super chats, but I like this one, so I'm going to throw it. Yeah. Just came on for a quick comment. Congrats, EJS, and win against Belmo. I thought it was great. It made me laugh when your dad looked at Belmo and gave him the boom when you got the double.
Yeah, that was quite funny.
There's a little controversy. Do you think he was talking to other guys, or do you think it was about the pins?
I think it was 100% about the pins.
I'm so sad. I wish it was about the players. That's what we need.
I heard about it. Like, I have missed the first 2 matches, so I watched the last 2. And I saw him do it there in the middle. And it didn't even – I didn't –
we were having fun with it.
The 4 or whatever. I'm like, I didn't think about it one way. Of course, I've had a lot of chirpy matches with different guys. So I'm like pointing at somebody and somebody's offended. Oh, I mean, go figure, bowlers. But
it
like,
clearly
that's what
wasn't.
we're worried about now.
It would have been so much more fun if it was.
Yeah.
Get that shit out of here. You're next, boy.
I thought you guys had a pretty good back and forth, passively aggressively. You know, he was, rooting it up. You gave it your thing, and you walked back on his lane over there. Very subtle. I'm here. I'm still here. It out loud.
So
I thought it was a great match of the emotions from both of us, because I saw some emotion out of Jason that I don't think we see very often.
No, I don't think so either.
Obviously, the match meant a lot to him, because he was trying to obviously make a statement against me because of the year that I've had and the amount of times we've bowled each other, especially in major championships. He wanted to keep a perfect record against me, which I would want to do the same, and I wanted to beat him as bad as I wanted to beat anybody ever.
Yeah.
And I just, all that emotion came out, and I think it made for absolutely great TV.
Always enjoyed bowling the best players through different eras. Whether it was Walter, for me, mostly when in my run it was Walter, and it was Pete, and it was Norm, and some of Parker. But those are the guys, man, I love bowling those guys on TV, and those matches are important. And they're very difficult matches to win, but they feel a little different when you beat the legends.
The other quick part of that, though, even if he did, so what?
Exactly. I just didn't worry about it.
So what?
He pointed and told you, Beach, and went, "Get out of here."
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yes, you would. You get to chirp.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. I mean, let's be honest. Simo's a red ass, right?
Yeah.
It clearly couldn't have been that bad, because Simo was discussing strategy with Belmo on his fill shot about what he should do with the reactive ball.
Yeah.
So he obviously didn't take it that bad, did he? Hey, by the way, you might want to think about this if you're going to keep me in Player of the Year by winning this match.
Yeah.
Because 100% that's what it was about. I understand this will drag you into it too, Belmo, but kind of be useful for me if you would win this one.
All right, back to EJ. EJ, with your top 3 motive balls, what are your dream specs if you had your own signature ball?
Well, obviously, Venom Shock, Jackal Ghost are top 2 on my list all time. I don't even know what dream specs would be, because the stuff that we bowl on is so different all the time. I mean, right now it's
target.
it's hard to bet against the specs of a Venom Shock because I use it so often.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick specs of my own signature ball, I would say probably the one that's going to be coming out in June.
There you go.
Little teaser.
Which, we're doing a final test. We just did a final test for it. So,
nice, Brian Armstrong. Thanks for the super chat. Nice chatting with you when the pair you were on was manual scoring during qualifying. How do you maintain? That doesn't really narrow it down that much. How do you maintain your physical and mental form over 70 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing in a World Series, you have to come in with a mindset of this is going to be long, this is going to be very grueling, and you try your best to not have many peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
If you can, the more right here that you can stay, you know, the longer your physicality is going to last, and definitely your mentality is going to last. The physical part, you know, we can make do, but the mental part is what you really have to focus on, because that can spiral out of control very, very quickly. And then it affects more than just the tournament you're bowling, because we have to think about the World Championships. Every pin matters. You can't give them away, even if you are bowling bad. And that's why I had that mentality coming into Shark. I know it was the end of the week, but you know, I'm like, I have to put myself in position for those 12 games next Thursday. So that was my whole mentality, and I was just trying to go out the bowl the best that I can, and it almost ended up on another show. So I think there's a lot to speak to just your mentality when you come in, of stay even keel and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, I definitely think that apart from the odd guy, I think it definitely separated the guys who practice and the guys who don't bowl in this format. Like the guys who go every day to bowl, it was pretty obvious because they weren't really in that, you know, by the last day, they weren't like, oh my God, this is the worst. Oh my God. It was mentally draining getting up and not being able to eat properly at night because we went to 5 on a pair and everything. Like, to me, the World Series became way harder when it went to 5 on a pair. If we'd have bowled 4 on a pair, it just wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Yeah, it wasn't the games, it was the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, because there's a lot of time standing around and not doing anything. And
just a quick tip to people who want to bowl tournaments that are going to last a long time all day. Probably not really for you, EJ, but for like guys who are a little older and maybe guys who aren't in as good a shape, think about sitting down during the day, because unless you work at like a checkout counter or on a factory line, you just don't stand up for 8 hours in a row. That's just not a normal thing. Yeah. So like taking some breaks where you get to sit down a little bit, I think makes a really big difference across, you know, when you're bowling for 10 hours in one day.
Yeah. So, and even for me, Stu, like I'm conscious about that. Because, you know, the back gets tight eventually, no matter how old you are. Yeah. So I'm definitely conscious of that, and
I appreciate that. I appreciate
it. I'm one to not sit down much, but on the days like that, you know, I have to remind myself to, okay, you have a long break here before you bowl again. You know, take that 2-3 minutes and just let your back have a quick rest.
Obviously, I've been a practice guy for a long time. I can't practice as much as I used to, but still practice quite a bit. So the games weren't a big deal, but standing there all day was hard. And I'm like you, I like to stand. And at some point, you have to give yourself some breaks in there.
100%. I think the only thing that I have going for me is, you know, I played so much golf in my life in high school and college that, you know, you go out and play a 4 or 5 hour round carrying your bag and no time to sit down. You know, you really can't. You might get to sit on, you know, on the end of the bag at one tee box when you're waiting, or there might be a bench where there's a backup or something, but it's not often you actually get to sit down, you know, during those rounds. So it's just one of those things that, you know, I've been through it and done it so many times that I think that's why I typically don't sit down when I bowl, just because I like to, I kind of wander around and do whatever.
Like motion. Motion keeps me less stiff than sitting.
Yeah.
PK, you did do it right. Appreciate it. Sean Wilson, appreciate the chat.
We've skipped over a couple here, but okay.
Did we?
Yeah, it's okay. I've got track.
Okay. Congrats, EJ, in your season. Going to need those pitches because everyone's just pitches away from being able to throw like EJ.
Yeah, and I don't have anything. There's nothing crazy in my bowling ball. I am laterally 3/8 both ways in my fingers. I'm 5/16 away in my fingers. And then in the thumb, I'm an 1/8 away and a 16th left. So nothing crazy out of the ordinary.
So Adam asked the question that everybody who only gets to watch TV gets to ask. It's a bit like they always used to ask Walter Ray, do you only use the Red Bull at 5? He says, Question for EJ again. Are you just going to use the Venom Shock every tournament, or are we going to see you use a different ball? Now, you did use the Coral Venom, didn't you?
I did. I used it on the cheetah.
See, the motive balls must be getting better because I'm actually remembering the name.
and it's funny that I used that ball on the cheetah because last year at the doubles, I threw that ball a lot. Now, the title match of that, I did go to a Venom Shock because we got to a point of the lane where the asymmetry in the coral just wasn't able to get up the hill anymore. But
that one's a little smoother, right?
It is a little bit sooner just because of the asymmetry in the core in that coral over the Venom Shock.
Yeah, it's I actually was watching, and from what I felt like that USA versus the world thing, I felt like that was going to have a really big impact on the shows, and I think it did a little bit for sure. Just getting to have like time on the lanes, like where there was realistically there wasn't really too much peril with it. You kind of got a couple of practice sessions because you were bowling 2 days running. You kind of got to bowl a couple of matches on it where they weren't, let's be honest, they weren't super high stress matches. Like if you won, it was cool. If you lost, that sucked, but it wasn't the end of the world. So did you feel like having the experience of last year and bowling like those 4 games on the show and then getting to see, because of course they said that they'd made changes, but it seemed like a lot of the characteristics were still kind of there between the 2 lanes being different. Did you think that helped?
I think it did 100%. It gave me a good vision of, the difference in the 2 lanes and why they were different, how they were different. Obviously, I don't think it made a huge impact on the cheetah because, our angles are so steep and we're playing more to the gutter. I felt like the lanes were fairly similar on that pattern. Maybe like a board different, but I mean, I was pretty much doing the exact same thing on both of them. I felt like it did help on Scorpion because the pattern length was similar. And on the USA show, I got to see the difference in the 2 lanes on that show. And I think that did help me on that show. I just made one bad shot. Otherwise, I probably would have won another title on that show.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Earl Anthony pattern was, I think, the same or 1 foot different.
41 or something, I think. Is it 41?
No, it's 43.
Oh, it's 43. Yeah.
So
okay.
It was either the same or 1 foot different than the USA versus World pattern that we used, which I don't even remember which one it was.
I do have to ask you about that Earl Anthony. Like, as someone who it actually does affect, because you were so high up in the standings, like, as somebody who's just bowling the event and observing what's going on, I've always had a bit of an issue, really, with the World Championship pattern being so like higher scoring than the other patterns. Like 220 was a really good score the entire week. Like between the 3 patterns, like Scorpion was obviously a little lower scoring, but like overall, it was kind of difficult to shoot a 220. Like in general, like 1100 was a really good number, like for the week. And then you come in and it's like guys are averaging like 252 and like. What do you think about that? Do you think we need to find a different solution for that pattern where it's a little bit like more realistic to what we bowl on the rest of the week, or are you kind of fine with it because it is what it is?
I would like to see it a little bit less scoring just because it is a major championship. If it wasn't a major championship, I think I would be fine with it just because it gives a different variety. And, sometimes you do have to remember how to strike and string strikes together. And I think that's 100%. Part of our game as well. So I'm not 100% against it. I just think for a major championship, I think there might need to be a little bit of a revision to the pattern.
Yeah. That's like I say, I thought it was kind of cool that like Belmo made that run and like Nathan made the run or whatever. And like they bowled unbelievable. It just doesn't feel like, in my mind, it just doesn't seem like it's right that you can gain so many more pins on one pattern than you can on the others. Like just in my mind anyway. Because we bowled world championships that were like that as well, where it's short and long.
Yeah.
And like the Koreans are averaging like 262 on the short and 182 on the long. but it doesn't matter if you're good on the long because the high score is like 217. It kind of just makes it a little.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of could argue the same thing about Cheetah as well. It being most of the time typically
In the
really
past,
high scoring.
yes.
Yeah.
But
So
you didn't have the bonus pins as well as the only other issue with that.
yeah, correct.
So
yeah, and I honestly, I still led and my match play record wasn't good, but I thought because we did have the time to do it, that maybe the World Championship should have been 4-5 game blocks, just like we did everything else, and did it over 2 days, and just made it 20 games and made it 80. But that's just my opinion, and it is what it is. We got to show up and bowl, and whatever the format is, we do our best.
We've got to defend Joey G here. He didn't have his shoes taped together. They're in perfectly fine condition. For whatever reason, they decided he had to cover up Nike logos. So that was the only thing.
The KD and the Nike thing, yeah.
I actually laughed about that because Simonelli put a post about Randy made him sound like he was homeless. And my response to it was, the cheek of it, Joe's the only person on the show who paid for his shoes.
Yeah. That's not true, because the pair that I have, because the supply's been so low, my other pair wore out, and Dexter wasn't getting the shipping in until like right now, maybe May. I actually told Natalie, I said, hey, I need to find a pair. I've got accounts and distributors for the pro shops. Like, hey, can you find me a pair of these? So I actually paid for them.
There you go.
Because there wasn't any. So
there
that's actually not true.
DJ Tackett, man of the people. Sean says, congrats on your World Championship, EJ, and your remarkable season. Do you plan on bowling the Open in the USBCs in Reno? Amazing show. Keep it up. Well, thank you very much. Yes, I'm actually going up with Tina like July 2, I think 1 through 3 is when I'm there. I think I've got to try and pick up a team, but yes, so I am there.
Yeah, and I'll be there about 3 or 4 days before Barnes is. I'll be there. I think it's either the Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is, before you're there.
Okay. Yeah, we're Friday, Saturday, and I'm with Knowlton and kind of a senior group, and Linda and Troy actually going to bowl
Nice.
on one of the other teams because I bowled good once, so I can't bowl with anybody else that's ever bowled.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
So,
we have about 5 or 6 teams from our bowling center that
cool.
goes.
Nice. Yeah.
I bowl with my parents, which is always fun. People have asked me in the past, oh, you don't want to win an Eagle? I'm like, guys, I bowl for a living. I can show up to the Nationals. I can still make money while I'm there, and I get a bowl with my family. And this is one of the only opportunities of the year in this kind of environment. I do get to do that, and that's way more important to me than winning an Eagle.
I think it'll be way more interesting moving forward. Like, I grew up in an era around some other guys. Obviously, the Wichita Chilton team had just won back, but it was a big deal in my area. And then I was around Goike and some other guys that it was a big deal for those guys. And I wonder how that's going to carry forward with differences in divisions and who you can and can't bowl with and all that.
Yeah.
Whether, like you said, people just go and show up and bowl with whoever they want, or or just have fun, or just sub in.
Yeah, and I still have opportunity to win in all events. I got the opportunity to win in singles.
Sure.
Last year, I bowled with my dad. He actually, funny story, he fell in the shower when we got there, and he tore his rotator cuff. He still bowled.
Jesus. And
he was my doubles partner. He bowled 640 with a torn rotator cuff and one stepping. And I bowled like 805 or something, and we finished 13th. My dad and I.
Hey,
he couldn't walk, couldn't pick up a ball. Yeah.
I think this is EJ
incredible.
calling out those 12 people who pulled out the World Series.
They tore their lower extremity.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, we went to shoes and all that. I'm not giving Jacob a pass on the new shoe thing. Those things are adjustable. You can put soles and heels on them that make you stop faster. I'm not giving any bit of a pass to the fact that he did not do his own.
Well, okay, here's what happened with that. He had the same soles off his other shoes on those. they were the wrong size. So that's also on him because he was like, I'm just going to wear these.
Professional bowlers do just a touch of preparation for your craft. You don't have another job. Just do what you need to do.
Yeah.
So I think this is back to Alan's mom.
Yes.
We've got a couple of people asking this. I think it's quite a cool question. They're saying, how do you improve your mental game other than time and experience? Have you spoken to any sports psychologists? And then how do you drown out the surroundings while bowling?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've never really worked with anybody. It's been me and my dad my whole life. Whether it's been, how I was raised by my parents. I always grew up around older people because I was in the bowling center. So I was always around those people that were in a different stage of life that had kids and been through life experiences. So I think my thought process and how I approach things have always been older than I actually am, just because of where I was when I was younger. And I think that's helped me tremendously. Where when I first came on tour, obviously I still have a lot to learn, but I think I was able to pick up on those things and maybe not have maybe the ego to say I can do it better, and actually like learn from older players. And it helped me a lot, and it's been a steady progression over my career. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, because I think the failures early on have helped create the success that I've had now.
Another quick fun here. How do I tell my local driller I want someone else to drill your stuff? Do what everybody else does in the America. Do the passive aggressive. Don't say anything. Just leave. You just take your favorite ball into the new pro shop. They'll be able to copy it. And if they can't copy it, that's not the right place to go to either. Ben says, EJ, as the number one seed so many times, what do you find is the best way to stay focused, and what's going through your head during those long waits until it's your turn to get to ball?
It's just trying to stay loose on the practice pair, and really pay attention to what's transpiring on the show. We have all this information now with like Strike Track is vital for me to pay attention to where the guys are throwing the ball, and then Brett does a lot of paying attention when guys are warming up and where they're throwing the balls, where they're breaking the lanes down, what kind of surface they're putting on the balls, because all that makes a huge difference in where I'm going to play, and maybe my ball choice or hand position choice, speed, whatever it may be. And you pay attention to those things, and I'll see, okay, these guys are throwing this ball. Where are they missing and still striking from? Because I want to know, okay, which side do I need to make my errors on? Like this past weekend on the show, I knew my error had to be left and it could not be right. And I made sure of that, and I actually did it this time. One of the few times in my career, I actually said I cannot miss it right. I have to miss it left, and I only missed it left every single time. So strike track is huge to watch that and figure out those things. And then you just, once you get on the TV set, I think it's just all about execution at that point. You've done all your homework to that point, and then just go out and make the best shots that you can.
That's a good question.
Congrats, EJ, on the win. Barnzy, you go to the ITCs last week to watch Wichita State win the national championship. I did, repping the hat today. Got to see Ryan and teammates go through an interesting week. They were almost eliminated a few times in the best of sevens, came through, probably bowled their best matches. And maybe their best match might have been the one on TV, which not how it really works most of the time. But maybe some of the best they've done all year for a bunch of guys that are individually very talented. Had a hard time bowling good at the same time a lot. And it was very cool to watch. It was something that Lynn and I, neither one had a team national championship. Despite some of the, I had two different swings as the leader, and we lost the 2-game match. And she had not quite deep enough teams. I think she made it to second once.
So Ryan's already got something over on you.
Well, to be fair, both of us have individual national championships. So
There it is, even when it's your kid. BSJ says, I'm not sure my super chat went through. I didn't see it. Is EJ going to bowl with Deandra at the Lucy again this year?
Yes, yeah, I am.
Yes, he is. So there you go.
And Deandra was actually at the show Sunday, which was really cool.
Keep pressing. Oh, where are we at? There was a couple more. Adam. Stop helping, Chris.
Sorry.
I'm wondering if I'm going to get paired with EJ's brother, Zach. Well, maybe. He's in the PTQ. You're in the PTQ.
Yeah.
Hey, Brock. Thanks. Oh, I've got your question right underneath. That worked out perfectly. How do you keep your angles so consistent while getting so many revolutions on the ball?
Practice.
Make notes, Chris.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's all about repetition. We all do it in a different way. And even when I do coaching, you know, it's trying to figure out what that person is good at and make them better at it. You know, it's not really like, oh, you have to do it this particular way, because so many different body shapes and styles and anatomy is different in every single person and how their body functions. So they do things for a reason. It's like, okay, what can we do to help you maximize what you already do? So I think that's the thing that people, I guess, don't really focus on. They're trying to, you know, be perfect and make everything look perfect instead of what is perfect for me.
Right. What's your best look like? I like that. This week in car audio, Barnzy, nice team bowling, but you let Riley outscore you. Well, to be fair, I also let Stu and EJ outscore me almost every week. It's what I do now.
So somebody asked, I don't think they've been paying attention to the PBA Tour this season. They asked, in a race to 10 strikes, who would win between you three? What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just you and I get to team up together and
take 20 shots.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Hopefully see you out there again soon. Amiable. Chris and Stu, do you have a fan mail address? We don't.
No.
If we get enough interest, we've had a couple of people asking us recently. If we do, we'll set up a PO box. Oh, nice. Ding, 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 ding. Whatever we need. Long time watcher, first time caller. As usual, I have to watch the record. As I usually have to watch the record. Just want to say, I appreciate you guys for us in internet land. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Frank says, EJ, I want to apologize for trolling you 3 years ago.
I've been trolled a couple of times, and I've had some subtle answers. I remember there was one instance. I don't even know if it was was Frank. It could have been, because it was a few years ago. I always get teased about how many more wins I'd have with Storm bowling balls. So I replied to a guy one time, just a picture of my trophy case.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is like those things are always so stupid to just start with.
Yeah.
It's like, realistically, there aren't many of the high level guys who change companies who it necessarily affects them too much.
Right.
Like, there was one other question that I wanted to ask. Somebody asked about, that's right, they were asking about the scorpion pattern, and did they think that players got left too fast? And oh yeah. And was it unnecessary, or did people just start the lanes far too far left, and the lanes blew up?
I think just on my pair, there was guys practicing too far left, even when we started. But you know, that's just part of it, and you have to adapt to your environment. Sometimes it sucks that we have to loft the ball halfway down the lane, because it is a skill to do it, but I don't think it should necessarily be as prevalent in bowling as it is. I feel like that's something that maybe should only happen once, twice at max in a year, where the lanes get to that point, because you don't want it always to be playing 15 either, because you have to get across the lane. You want us to play different parts of the lane, and it is a skill set that, you know, some people are way better at it than others. You know, it's something that Barnes isn't going to be as good at now as maybe he once was 20 years ago, because his body doesn't let him do it anymore. And I would compare that to like Tiger Woods when he went through his back surgery. He couldn't hit those shots out of the rough like he once did.
Yeah.
But
as an amateur,
you know,
they all act like lofting just happened. I made the majority of my money in college, and shortly after that, loft and left gutter cap every tournament. They always hooked. It's not a new thing. I do, and Stu and I generally agree on this, take exception to people talking about the best people in the world playing the lanes wrong. The whole field didn't just decide, nope, I'm just going to play the lanes wrong because I want to go off the left gutter. I'm guessing when 80% of the field decide to go do them a certain way, that's the best place to play.
I think what caused it wasn't anything to do with how dry they were, in my mind anyway. It wasn't the reason why I was as far left. I was as far left because I was trying to find a way in which I could take away getting 3 or 0.
Yeah.
And I did. Like, I might have been one of the few people in the entire field who didn't get 3 or 0 at any point in that event. And I threw a few shots. I'm like, God damn, that's 3. But I was throwing it so slow that it almost couldn't get 3. Like, it would always come back off it. And that's why I got further away from it. It wasn't necessarily that, like, it was so dry. It was just bringing your break point away from that area. Because
it was a combination of an out-of-bounds spot and a lot of early hook.
And you felt like you had to have angle through the front because the pattern was flat in the middle. Yeah. And if you hit that, I mean, it felt like there was almost as many gutter balls on Scorpion as there was on Cheetah. It was unbelievable.
I want to make fun of myself for a leave that I had on Scorpion.
Okay.
I saw this.
1, 5, 7, 8, 10.
Yeah. And you made a good run at making it somehow.
I've spared that on TV.
Huh?
I've spared that on TV.
How?
How did I leave it, or how did I spare it?
Yes.
How did you spare it? I know how you left it because I did it.
I just threw a pocket shot and it nailed it.
How'd you get the 10?
Oh, sorry, I didn't leave the 10 pin. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I left the 1, 5, 7, 8.
I left the 10 pin with it.
Oh, well, you're just special, EJ. Sorry, I wasn't thinking about the 10. No, I left the 1, 5, 7, 8 against Belmont.
Yeah,
it might have actually been the 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, I did, when I shot at it, I'm like, I don't even know how to do this. I'm just going to try to get 4, and I made the 1, 5, 7, 8. So you're not that special.
To be honest, I felt like you should have just thrown a regular shot and get the scout for the 10.
That's what I was trying to do. I'm like, I feel like that's the only way I can make this at all. But if I do that, I feel like I also missed the 8 pin.
Yeah,
but I'm just like, you know what? I think I was on a strike or a double. I'm like, I'm just going to try to get 4. And see you guys later.
Yeah. Let's try not to turn this frame into 5-0.
Exactly.
There's so many. I've already made an asshole of myself in the first half of this frame. Let's not compound it into 2 times. Andrew says, was able to meet the 3 of you in Milwaukee. Man, and you're still coming back for super chats. Wow. Couldn't have been on the morning of Shark that you met me then. Thank you for taking time to sign the autographs and take pictures. Congrats, EJ. Well, thank you. I appreciate you. That's very kind. We are getting close to catching up, but we're still not there. EJ, how does it feel and change your mentality knowing that you have Player of the Year locked up? I feel like you're going to say that it's not going to because you don't feel like it's locked up.
That's exactly what I'm going to say because it's not.
It 100% is, but okay.
I don't believe so. I mean,
what are we going to start with? I mean, bro, we're not going to start counting the what do you want, the skill ball title?
No, I'm not going to even talk about that. I'm talking. Okay. We have another major championship left. You know, Simon goes and wins that. Goes and wins. You know, goes and wins the tour finals or wins the Lucy, wins in Sweden. You know, like
I get it. I understand what you're saying.
Nothing's locked up until the trophy is sitting on my mantle.
I agree.
Then it's locked up.
No, the astrophysics is way cleaner than the infinite physics. The absolute might be closer to the absolute, the astrophysics.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a good question. If any of you were a new bowler today, would you go two-handed or one-handed? Am I allowed to be skinnier? Because I honestly don't think I can swing past my stomach to be two-handed.
Well,
I mean,
Brian
Valenta's got a
Valenta.
big old ass.
You're saying Brian Valenta.
Well, yeah, but if Brian Valenta was the bar, then I don't know that we'd be having too many conversations about two-handed. It's not that he's not successful; he's just not winning multiple PBA titles.
I saw him in college. It was a little, it was a little prettier then.
Still the funniest, still the greatest entertainment I've ever had at the US Open was watching him when the entirety of the top floor at Carolina stopped every time he bowled because he was throwing it over the pattern.
Yeah.
He was
throwing it like 5-10 feet past
feet.
the arrows. It was unbelievable.
He was basically throwing it to the rangefinders.
It was like 35 feet almost in the air.
It was unbelievable. One guy goes, see, he's figured it out. He's just taken the pattern out of play. I go, the pattern's 40 feet. He goes, yeah, he has one bounce. And then the next time it skips, it's on the back end already. And he was bowling good.
Yeah, I remember that.
But the answer is 100% two-handed if you're right-handed. I don't know about left-handed. Left-handed, if you have 400 RPMs or better, you probably make it either way. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know because my dad would probably still be my coach, and he'd probably tell me I have to bowl one-handed. Because that's what happened. I was like 5-6 years old, and I used to throw it from my chest like this. And he goes, "All right, that's enough of that. You're gonna throw it with one hand
now." Kenneth, he says you should never have to loft or have to do it in periods. Sorry, Walter Ray proved that theory silly. I saw Walter Ray loft it many times. You just
didn't see it on TV.
Yeah.
He lofted it all the time.
There aren't that many people. He says Stu trying to flex on EJ about his spare shooting. I hate to break it to you, Donald. I have to be better at EJ at something, and single pins is my thing. Like,
at least the amount we leave, nothing else.
A shit ton of them. And I don't shoot as many 7-baggers. It's harder for me to shake off that flagged 4-pin. It's like I was trying to explain this to someone the other day about Simo. I go, Simo's a better spare shooter than me, but I'm better at single pins than he is because I care more. Like, he misses more single pins than I do. But if it's about sparing the 2-4-6, Simo's probably going to spare it way more time, is going to spare it way more times than I am. But if you're talking about the 2-pin, I'm better at shooting the 2-pin than Simo, statistically, because I don't get pissed off and just miss it.
And I know Simo's better at shooting the 2-pin than me because I missed one that cost me a title against him once.
Thanks,
They're
Terry.
trickier to forget, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, question for everyone. Are you guys looking forward to bowling at Carolina for the first time since 2014? EJ's
Absolutely,
looking forward to bowling anywhere.
Yeah, he just wants the next tournament.
I'm especially looking forward to that because in 2014, I led that Masters. I was #1 seed on that Masters show. So I'm looking forward to going back because that place is obviously a lot of rich history there and great bowling center, great fans. The fans are incredible out there. So it should be fun.
Right. We're getting close. I've got a way I'm going to do the super chat thing. So it's cool. I've got a random number generator. It's going to generate a number and I'm going to scroll down however many super chats it was in and tell you who won. So EJ, was your power release something you developed or was it something you started out with doing from the first day? And then I think what he's saying is, did you have a natural tendency to it? And was it like making it bigger or was it taming it? Like trying to, get,
it was definitely growing into it. It was everything I do was naturally developed. My dad, when I was young, he taught me fundamentals and literally said, go figure it out and do it your way. And then he just kind of refined it over the years. And when I was young and got into my first reactive ball, I couldn't keep it on lane. just because I hooked it so much, because I'd thrown plastic balls up to that point and had to try to make them hook. So I got my first reactive ball, and for a week, all I did was hit the 7-pin. And, once I got bigger and stronger, was able to throw it harder, I kind of grew into it. But Dad never stopped me from doing it, because that's just how I bolt. So, me sitting here and being successful as I've been is a lot attributed to my dad, and letting me do it my own way, and really just refining it as I got older.
Okay, well, we have been going for a long time, and the fans have turned out big style today. Oh, we've got a few more coming in. I thought we would almost exhausted the super chats, but we've had another.
Is not. What'd you get bleeped on? Did you get fined?
As far as I know, yet I did not get fined.
Gotcha.
I actually, right after we were off air, I told Tom Clark. I said, "Hey, just to let you know, I'm going to get fined." And he goes, "Why?" And I told him what I said, and he goes, "Oh, don't worry about it." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm just letting you know I did it, and I'm aware of it. And whatever the consequence is, I'm okay with it.
Stripped of major title. I'm not okay with it, Tom.
Not okay with that.
Sorry, Sean. First time catching this live. I enjoy all you folks do. I just moved and I'm joining a new league. Do you have any tips for adjusting to a new league in a house? For me, the first thing to do is try what you feel comfortable with, see how it goes, and then have a look and see which guys bowled good that night and kind of get an idea of what they do. If they're announcing that there was a 300 shot the first game, or, there's a bunch of guys with the front nine and you're shooting 225, probably need to make some adjustments. But like I say, see what all the good guys are doing, because quite often in a house, you'll see that, some houses are really good for the straight guys. Some houses are really good for the guys who want to hook it. So you just got to do your best to find a way to see what's best and what you can do to kind of emulate that.
Well, like EJ was talking about earlier, we do the same thing on tour. You look around, you catch the commonalities between not only the people bowling good, but the people bowling bad. What are they doing? And if they have something that they're doing, okay, I can eliminate that portion of my tool bag, because that's not working out very well. So same kind of idea.
I am trying my best to find. One guy is saying that I missed the super chat, and I'm just trying to find it because we have been going at a pace. So you keep going. I'm looking for this. All one right. Chat.
Well, Peter, Petio. Wow. Thank you, sir. Let's see. Can I please hear from you what happened when you ditched the Greek church the other day?
Oh, on the USA versus the World.
Yeah.
So.
God, I couldn't figure out what he was talking about either. That was like 7 shows ago for you. Last week.
Well, it was getting close in that match in that time, and I felt like I needed to spare it. And I turned around to Tommy and asked, what do you want me to do? He said, go for it. So I went for it, and I just missed.
Yeah.
But I made sure I aired on that side, because that's the only way you can make it. So
sure.
It was just a poor execution.
Y'all think EJ's and Anthony's consistent domination is good? I do think so in general. I think the best era we had, as long as the personalities are different, and your 3 personalities are a little different, you all bring something different to grab onto. I think that ends up being a pretty nice dynamic. So, I
mean, just look at men's tennis against women's tennis. Serena Williams hasn't really had a rival in her time. And on the other side, you've had Djokovic, Nadal, Federer, and even to some extent throwing in Andy Murray for a little while.
When it's Belmo only versus having Belmo, hey, these guys are trying to take over. He might be the greatest of all time. These guys are trying to be the best of this time.
Yeah.
And there's legitimate arguments, not just they could be, or they could be, or who's next. It's I think it's a good time.
Sorry, Chris. I did bring this up and I didn't answer it, and I'm sorry. Hey, all, congrats on the season, EJ. Also a CTD staffer. Well, thanks for coming on to the show. I'm glad you've forgiven Chris. Questions for all. I'm 48, low revs around 300 to 325. So it's not that low. 16 miles an hour. So I would say you're fairly close to being matched. You're probably a little speed dominant, but not too far off. Should I try a PBA regional for my first tournament or wait for the PBA 50? From my point of view, try a regional. Because that'll at least give you what's the point of putting it off? You've got 2 years to prepare to get out there on the PBA 50. So gain as much information as you can as quickly as you can.
And if you bowl stuff that is right now, the national touring guys won't bowl. Bowl a non-champions event.
I was about to say non-champions events are good.
Yeah, those are great places to kind of get your feet wet and with a pretty high chance of, you increase your chances of success for sure. And then that'll help you prepare for the PBA 50, which most of them are on the softer side of the PBA patterns. But you'll be ready. You'll have a pretty good idea what you're walking into.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I would always encourage people, if they're trying to decide what they're going to do, just go do it. You never know until you try.
So sorry, Chris. Sorry, I ended up making it a $12 super chat. My bad. Sorry. Yep. Mike sent a question. Yeah, here you go. How has your mental game on TV changed over the years?
I think for me, it's just a confidence thing. The more times you are successful, the more confidence you have in doing it again. And, it makes the bad ones a little bit easier to get over when the more success that you do have. So obviously I won on Monday night and then honestly choked off on Tuesday night. But then came back on Sunday and,
is
had
there
one of the best days I've ever had.
Anything that you approach the show now that you did before that you definitely go, you know what, that doesn't really work for me on TV, and you've changed it to something else?
Yeah, just before you answer, EJ, the thing he's changed is he's being the 4th or 5th seed.
That will help your chances a lot.
He's decided that I'm only going to be the 2nd or the 1st seed on TV. That's the way I'm going to go at it. So,
I mean, that does help, but I think for me, because of so many times I've been 1-2 seed where I sit around for a while, just paying attention more to what's going on and having a better game plan, a course of action when I come on set, saying like, this is exactly what we're going to do, execute that. And then, and that's a lot of conversation with Brett. Brett has some ideas. We bounce off each other, trying to figure out what is going to be the best course of action that is going to benefit me the most. And I'll use this past Sunday as an example. When I got my 4 shots before the Simo Belmo match, I took a ball and scuffed the shit out of it. And I threw it right on top of where Belmo was bowling. Because at that point, I'm like, I'm going to try to build this wall even more. But I want him to pick a side of that too. Are you going to go over here or are you going to go over here? Because I'm trying to build this wall for me, and you got to decide which side of it you want to go on. So it's making decisions like that and being very decisive in those decisions and creating that game plan and just implementing it and trying to give myself the best opportunity to throw as many strikes as possible. And it's not always like trying to affect someone else. It just sometimes that might be a byproduct of trying to set up the lanes for myself the best.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess the more times you get there, the more you realize that, well, screw it. I might as well take a chance this time on doing something different, because obviously what I've been doing, Belmo's ended up winning these matches. I've got to force it into a different. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
James has asked, he didn't post the question before. I was actually going to get to it because I'd seen he posted it again. We're bowling on Earl Ansey this weekend in Dublin, California. That bowling center is quite difficult to knock the pins over. Any tips for a stroker?
Yeah, just be left-handed.
Yeah. Any tips for watching the stroker? For me on that pattern, the key is always to have straighter angles. Like the longer you can stay straight for, and the reason why the PBA guys use it is because most of the guys aren't able to control a rev rate with a reactive ball going straighter. That's just the way it is. They're not using urethane because they're not using urethane to wheel around the lane.
Yeah.
They're using
Or because
urethane
it's
to play a
better.
straighter angle. Like, that's just the way it is. Like, Chris Vi can play that, and even then he's still hooking it a little bit, but he's using it just to have that straighter angle through the pins. So for me, big balls, for like, especially if you're a stroker, using stronger, more surface, trying to keep the ball in a straighter line is much better on that pattern.
I agree.
EJ Black Venom or Primal Shock?
Yes. It's all dependent on, you know, what's going on.
Yes,
It's all
somebody else
dependent on
says
that.
it. It depends.
depends.
That's our catchphrase for the show.
Yeah. So I did win with both of those balls. In Jackson, I threw both of them on that show. The last game I did switch to the Venom Shock on the left lane just because we were getting further deeper on that pattern. But I did throw the Black Venom on the right lane the whole time. So it's all situational. Like you see the title match, it's like, oh, of course EJ's using the Venom Shock, but they didn't see the match before where I was using the Primal Shock. So, and that stuff happens all the time.
All right, we're not going past an hour 50, so we've got like 4 minutes left. I'm calling it. Like, it's been amazing. We've still got 550 people watching live. EJ, if you could go back in time to the early years of your career, what would you tell yourself, and how would you prepare differently to achieve the success you've had earlier?
I was asked this question not long ago. I think patience would probably be the biggest key for me. As all of us when we were younger, we always short-tempered a little bit more. I think if I could have learned what I've learned, even over the last couple of years of how I go about through a block. Obviously, it's not every single time. We all still have our moments, but for the majority of the time, I'm definitely a lot more even keel during qualifying. And then, all the knowledge that I've gained on TV shows, I wish I knew all of it then. But it is what it is. Yeah.
I think I heard one guy, I can't remember, I think it was one of the NFL guys was talking about, I think it was John Elway, he was talking about, like, what would you tell yourself after your career was finished? And he said, I'd tell myself to be patient, because knowing that success was going to come. And I think for you, that's like kind of like pretty good, because the last 3 years you've obviously amassed a shitload of titles. Whereas, like, I think, I imagine the first few times where you'd only won one or two and you were like having a lot of opportunities on TV and not winning. I think, like if we went back to that time, the World Series where you and the four lefties made it, like the one in Reno, and you didn't bowl very well on the TV show. If I told you now that you had at that time, because you sat on the lane, like I remembered, because I watched the show in the crowd and you were sat on the lane and like you were, nobody could console you. And I said, if I could walk down to you and say, hey, in 8 years' time, you'd have a Triple Crown and 2 World Championships. Yeah. Like, it's interesting thinking back on those times for sure.
Yeah, because I've always been the one, because you never know when the last title is going to be. You don't know when that last show is going to come. Things could happen tomorrow and it could all be over. You never know.
How old are you now?
I'm 30.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't matter your age. You just never know what life is going to put in front of you.
I understand it. It just
so it's like trying to take advantage, because at that time the World Championships brought up, Stu, was at that time I had one title, and I'd also, that was the second time in back-to-back seasons I had been the number one seed at a major and lost, and that was hard. So early on in your career, because you're like, I don't know how many opportunities like this I'm going to actually get. And I haven't been successful yet. but the next year was my player of the year. So,
yeah, it's just like I say, it's just very interesting thinking back on that. Like,
yeah,
so.
I think there's a window early on where you don't know how many more chances you get, and then speaking from experience, later on you don't know how many more chances you're going to get. You're kind of in that middle range where you go, hey, I can try a few things here because I'm pretty sure I can find my way back at least a few more times.
Right.
Maybe not all of them like you are right now, but it's nice to think that it's possible. It's certainly possible every time you lace them up at a major that you're going to make the show. You're going to be a favorite. So,
well, thanks, Wilson. Appreciate you. If you had a question, let us know. Oh God, we've already gone past an hour 50. I was able to watch you in Springfield and got to talk to you a bit after the second day. Definitely something I won't forget. Well, that's cool. And a question: what are your thumb and finger pitches?
His finger pitches are 3/8 left and right, 5/16 reverse, an 1/8 reverse in the thumb, and a 16th left.
There you go. We've got it. So if anybody wants to pay us in the next show for EJ's finger pitches, we know what they are. Congratulations.
I'll take my commission from that, Stu.
I'm going to put them in now because my rev rate will automatically go up 100. So even though they're really close to what they were for about 25 years.
Glenn says, "Congrats, EJ. Congrats to you too, Stu." And hi, Chris. Looking to forward.
There's PBA 50 shows coming. So
yeah.
How do you three get yourself to think clearly during stressful situations? I think we do it in 3 different ways. Chris beats the shit out of something. EJ just thinks
myself.
Yeah. I get very frustrated with it and probably change ball, and EJ just goes, meh, there's a 7-bagger coming.
No, I would say honestly though, I think the thing is just to be completely focused on doing one in particular thing. That's what I always try to do on TV shows. I try to find whatever that thing is on the lane that I need to do and try to fixate on doing that one thing, whether it's, keeping my hand up the back of it, maybe lofting it out in the lane just a touch more, whatever that one thing may be that I think is going to make me successful that day. That's the one thing I just fixate on and then just try to repeat it.
I think for me, it's having keys to understanding what I need to do to throw a good shot. So like, I think one of the things I really got from my lesson with Baker at the start of the year was, I think we all have a tendency, like you just trying to get a bit handsy with it. Like when you the lane feels like it's grabbing early, that's the thing I always admired about Chris, and Duke, was when the lanes were hardest, they could convince themselves that they just had to throw it better. Whereas everybody else, ends up convincing themselves that they have to help it, like normal people. And what Baker told me was that, my forearm could control the direction and then the hand would control the back part of the lane. And, especially at the US Open when we were bowling on that, thin, long pattern, I was really struggling because, of course, the hook's so early there and you were really, your hand was coming over it. And then once I really started focusing on sending my forearm to the target, that was just, something I could key in on. So I'm not suggesting that that's the right thing for you, Glenn. I'm just saying having some things that you can key in on to, de-escalate the situation and, try to make a good shot. Because most of the time when you're stressful, you're under stress. It's because you don't know what to do and you're making bad shots. If you're making good shots, it's about slowing the process down and making a choice of what you've got to make the right decision. What's confusing is when you're not throwing it very well, you don't have enough data to make the right choice. So then you get yourself in more trouble. So the key is to throw a good shot. All right, this is the last question. Then I'm going to do the random number generator and tell you who won. What pitches are you using so I know what to avoid? Well, that's good.
He's changed them 3 times this year, so I'm not sure.
I've got 7/8 away on my middle finger. It doesn't bend anymore. All right. Let me share the screen If you got somewhere to go, EJ, I can let you go. Otherwise, you can stay around for the unveiling.
I'm just chilling.
Okay, cool. Random number generator. Here we go. So we had, at the last count, we had 45 super chats. So let's generate a number. Tells me it's number 35. Of course it does, because that's going to take me ages to count down from the top. So you keep talking and I'll tell you where I'm at. If you find any other questions, just ask those while I'm just trying to count.
This is going to call BS on Belmo saying, get out of here. Comments were directed to pins. I don't really care if they were or they weren't. To be honest, I think it's fine. If he'd have looked right at Jacob and Simo and said it, fine. I mean, I don't think their reaction would have been the same.
No.
And that probably tells you all you need to know. Jacob's like the nicest human on earth, so he might not have said anything anyway. He might have just chuckled. Simo definitely would not have just chuckled.
No. And Simon wouldn't have been helped, like you said before. Simon wouldn't have been talking to Jason before he threw those two shots. He would have already been offset.
That would have had an MFer and I don't know what else going on underneath there. It had
everyone would have known.
So I counted down 35, and it's going to feel like it's a fix because he's the guy who asked probably almost certainly the most questions. Adam, you won. This was the 35th super chat we got today. So, Adam, you won. Congratulations. Let me know what you want, and I'll either give it to you on Sunday when I see you, or I'll have it shipped out to you. But congratulations, Adam, you won. I know you know how to get in touch with me, so just send me a message on the Beef and Barnzy Instagram page. But congratulations, Adam, you won. You were the 35th.
Charlie Tapp says, Bill Taylor said I'd be boy of the year if I used a quarter forward in my fingers. I'll hang up and listen. Yeah, well, I suppose it's kind of like when you call the betting line and every other number they say, Atlanta, Patriots, Atlanta, Patriots. They're right half the time. You tell it to everybody, somebody will be right. I don't know.
Slowly is my advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've just got to build up to it. You just got to build up to it slowly. So.
All right, I think
Adam's already messaged me to tell me what he wants.
Okay, well, EJ, I appreciate you coming on here and staying an hour longer than generally we have anyone else. Obviously, you are the dynamic personality the show has been missing. And we appreciate you hanging out with us through literally thick and thin.
And thinner.
Well, and thinner. Yeah, there's no thin unless it's a guest.
He's the thin.
Yeah, exactly. So you had to bring a different dynamic. Speaking of, we will probably try even thinner next time and stretched out a little bit more, as the eyes will have it on Thursday. Matt Ogle will be joining us. And if he can catch us in between, mowing lawns,
good luck. He'll probably be on the mower while he's on.
He might be big headphones on. Yeah, that'd be cool. Anybody you had parting words, shots, whatever you want to make out of this. So.
No, I did. Hey, thank you guys for having me on. I think this is the second or third time I've been on. Always a blast. It is fun because of all the shots coming from everywhere, every direction. It's always a good time. And it's probably the last time I come on though. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm just joking.
Well, there's an easy way to not get asked. I can tell you that. So
yeah, I'm gonna start mowing lawns. I'm busy that day. Sorry.
Yeah. It's been a minute. We haven't asked Pete in a while. I'm just saying. So. No, I appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys too.
Yeah, it's about 170,000 in each pocket now, Chuck.
Yeah. Hey, get it right. It's 180.
Oh, I can ask you, why was Simo so pissed off about them being practice for the roll-off?
I don't know, because that's what happens in every roll-off in the
Yeah.
history of always. So
Yeah,
I
It's just the
honestly
rule.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Simo shouts at people rather than clouds. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Amazing show.
No, we're not doing that.
No,
not
we're
again.
All right. Fair enough.
Not again.
All right. I'll Belmo you. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, get out of here.
All right, fine, bye.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, thanks again, guys, for coming on. Appreciate all the super chats. Congrats to Adam for winning, and congrats to EJ on tying me for your 21st title. I can't wait to tie you for your 22nd as well. And or you tie me. I don't know.
I'm just trying to keep you relevant.
It's just good looking out. I appreciate that. In between now and then, join us Thursday for our next show. We will be doing a duo video, which will be up, I think, by the end of the week. Huh?
Friday.
Monday? All right. Friday. So we'll get that out. Look for that. And in between now and then, please support the sponsors that support us. Storm, Rotogrip, Banner Global, Coolick, Bowlers Mart, Fire Lake Bowling Center, Lightning Strikes, and Platinum Ford. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Boom! God bless.
See you later.
See ya.